The galaxy has waited 10,000 years for the Emperor to awaken. Prayers were whispered, wars were fought in his name, and trillions died, believing his return would be salvation. But when the Emperor finally opens his eyes, the first thing he feels is not hope, it is disgust. Not at the enemies beyond the stars, not at the warp, not even at the gods that mock him, but at what humanity has become in his absence. And when the master of mankind rises from the golden throne, the question is not who will he save, the question is what will he destroy first. The moment the Emperor awakens, the galaxy does not tremble from light or divine thunder, it trembles from silence. A silence so absolute that even the warp recoils. The golden throne hums and screams as systems older than empires strain under a consciousness they were never meant to contain for eternity. His eyes open, not with warmth, not with mercy, but with understanding. Total, ruthless understanding. He does not need time to learn. 10,000 years of unbroken awareness have already shown him everything. Every lie spoken in his name, every shrine built upon his suffering, every war fought not for humanity's future, but for power, fear, and control. The Emperor does not awaken confused. He awakens angry. The first thing he truly sees is Terra itself, once the cradle of rational hope, now a bloated corpse world choking under dogma. Towering cathedrals blot out the sky, built not to inspire unity, but obedience. Priests chant prayers to a god he never wanted to become. The imperial creed screams his divinity into the void, binding humanity not through enlightenment, but terror. To the Emperor, this is not reverence, it is failure made architectural. He feels the Astronomicon burning through his soul, sustained by thousands of psychers sacrificed daily in his name, lives extinguished endlessly to fuel a system that was meant to be temporary, a solution twisted into ritualized murder. This was never the future he envisioned. Humanity was meant to rise beyond superstition, beyond fear of the unknown. Instead, it kneels in chains forged from belief. The Emperor's first instinct is not to command armies or summon primarchs, it is to remove rot. His gaze turns inward, toward the institutions that rule the Imperium in his absence. The High Lords of Terra appear insignificant before him, creatures hiding behind layers of authority they barely comprehend. They claim to rule in his name, yet every decision reeks of self-preservation. Bureaucracy has replaced vision, fear has replaced progress. The Imperium has become a machine that exists only to sustain itself, grinding humanity into fuel. To the Emperor, this is unforgivable. He does not see loyal servants, he sees obstacles. But even deeper than corrupt officials and bloated governance lies the true abomination. The worship, the ecclesiarchy, the endless sermons that declare him a god. This is the first lie that must be destroyed. The Emperor knows better than anyone what gods truly are. He has fought them. He has watched them consume civilizations. He never wanted humanity shackled to the same fate. Faith feeds the warp. Belief empowers entities that should never exist. Every prayer strengthens the very forces he tried to starve. The irony is unbearable. Humanity's devotion has become a weapon against itself. The Emperor understands a truth that would shatter the Imperium overnight. As long as he is worshipped, humanity will never be free. As long as they kneel, they will never evolve. The imperial cult is not protection, it is a cage. And cages must be broken. This is why the Emperor's first act would not be mercy, it would not be reunion, it would be destruction, not of worlds, but of ideas, of systems, of beliefs that turned his dream into a nightmare. The galaxy fears what the Emperor might do to its enemies, but the Imperium should fear what he will do to itself. Because when the master of mankind finally rises, he will not purge chaos first. He will purge the lie that he is a god. The Emperor's awareness spreads outward like a blade drawn slowly across flesh. Terra is only the beginning. Through the Astronomicon, through the warp itself, he feels the Imperium, every screaming world, every dying soldier, every lie spoken in his name. It is not a realm guided by reason. It is a civilization surviving on momentum alone, terrified of change, addicted to stagnation. This is not humanity's triumph. It is its prolonged decay. The High Lords of Terra sense something before any announcement is made. Consoles flicker, astropaths collapse, bleeding from the eyes. The air inside the Senatorium Imperialis grows heavy, oppressive, as if the weight of 10,000 years has suddenly returned to its rightful owner. For generations, these figures ruled behind his silence, mistaking absence for approval. They crafted laws, purged rivals, and sacrificed billions, all while claiming divine mandate. Now that mandate stands before them. The Emperor does not speak at first. He does not need to. His presence alone strips away pretense. Every justification they ever crafted collapses under his gaze. He sees them not as leaders, but as symptoms. Each lord represents a fragment of a broken system, bloated, paranoid, self-serving. Their Imperium is built on fear of losing control, not on belief in humanity's future. They kneel, they beg, they proclaim faith. That is their final mistake. Faith is the poison he recognizes instantly. It clings to them, thick and suffocating, a residue of the ecclesiarchy's influence woven into governance itself. The Emperor sees how worship has infected every layer of command. Decisions are no longer made for survival or progress, but for symbolism, tradition, and appeasing an imaginary divine will. His will. Except it was never his. In that moment, the Emperor understands something horrifyingly clear. The Imperium no longer follows him, it follows the idea of him, a weaponized myth easier to control than truth. And myths cannot be reasoned with. The ecclesiarchy's reach stretches far beyond cathedrals and shrines. It dictates education, morality, even military doctrine. Entire crusades launched not from strategy, but prophecy. Worlds burned because scripture demanded it. Knowledge suppressed because ignorance was easier to rule. The Emperor does not see devotion, he sees regression, humanity crawling backward into the dark he once dragged it from. This is why the ecclesiarchy cannot be reformed. It must be erased. The Emperor knows what would happen if he simply declared the truth. Civil war would ignite instantly. Billions would die screaming that their God had betrayed them. Faith is something you do not remove gently. It resists, it fights back, it destroys reason to preserve itself. The Imperium has been balanced on this blade for 10 millennia, and the longer it stands, the worse the fall will be. Yet, the Emperor does not hesitate. He has already sacrificed more than this. Across Terra, signs begin to manifest. Shrines fall silent, relics lose their glow, miracles cease without explanation. The warp itself seems to recoil as belief wavers. Priests panic as their authority fractures. Faith has always been power borrowed from belief, and belief is fragile when confronted by reality. The Emperor does not smite them with lightning. He does not rain fire from the heavens. That would only confirm the lie. Instead, he removes the foundation. Truth. Orders ripple outward, precise and merciless. The ecclesiarchy is stripped of authority, its armies disbanded, its leaders detained, interrogated, or erased. Not publicly yet. Quietly. Surgically. The Imperium's greatest religion begins to collapse from the inside, its voice strangled before it can scream. This is the first thing the Emperor truly destroys. Not chaos, not Xenos, not traitors, but the false god he was turned into. And the galaxy does not rejoice. It panics. Because for the first time in 10,000 years, the Imperium must face a reality more terrifying than damnation. A living emperor who refuses to be worshipped. And he is only getting started. With the ecclesiarchy's grip beginning to loosen, the Emperor turns his attention to the blade that has enforced the Imperium's will for 10,000 years. Not the guard, not the fleets, but the watchers in the dark, the judges without trial, the hands that decide guilt before innocence is ever considered. The Inquisition. They feel him before he names them. Across the galaxy, Inquisitors pause mid-sentence, servo-skulls stutter, astropaths scream as a pressure settles into their minds, cold and inescapable. These are men and women who have stared into heresy without flinching, who have ordered exterminatus without losing sleep. Yet now, something ancient and immeasurably vast is looking back at them. The Emperor knows the Inquisition intimately. He understands why it was born, a necessary evil in an age of desperation. Humanity needed guardians willing to cross lines, to act without hesitation, to burn worlds if it meant survival. For a time, they served their purpose. That time has long passed. The Emperor sees what they have become, a fractured order ruled by paranoia, ego, and ideology. Ordo against Ordo, radical against Puritan, entire sectors destabilized by internal power struggles disguised as vigilance. They claim to protect humanity from chaos, yet many have become indistinguishable from the very threats they hunt. Warp-tainted weapons, forbidden pacts, secrets piled upon secrets until truth itself suffocates. Worst of all, they answer to no one, not even him. The Emperor does not hate the Inquisition. Hate would imply emotion. What he feels is something colder, assessment, and the conclusion is absolute. An organization built on unchecked authority cannot coexist with his return. It would either resist him, manipulate his words, or fracture the Imperium trying to interpret his will. Control must be reclaimed. He does not announce their dissolution. That would provoke open rebellion, and rebellion breeds martyrs. Instead, the Emperor does what he has always done best. He isolates, he exposes, he removes. Information begins to surface, sealed records unlocked, centuries-old atrocities revealed, entire inquisitorial conclaves implicated in actions even the Imperium cannot stomach. Trust erodes, accusations fly, inquisitors turn on one another, convinced the rot lies everywhere except themselves. The Emperor watches, unmoved. Then he looks to the angels of death. The Space Marines feel him next. Across 1,000 chapters, gene-enhanced warriors falter, not in weakness, but in instinct. Many drop to one knee without knowing why. Others experience flashes of memory not their own, a towering figure in radiant armor, a voice that once commanded legions, a father they have never truly known. The Emperor sees his legacy, and it is complicated. He feels pride, yes. The Astartes remain humanity's greatest weapon, unbreakable, disciplined, relentless. But he also sees divergence, chapters clinging to ritual, others worshiping him as fervently as any priest, some walking perilously close to mutation, secrecy, or outright defiance. They were never meant to replace humanity. They were meant to protect it. The Emperor knows now that even his greatest creations are not immune to the Imperium's decay. This is the third thing he prepares to destroy. Not the Space Marines themselves, but the false identities imposed upon them. They will serve humanity again, or they will fall. The galaxy does not realize it yet, but the Emperor's awakening is not a return to the old Imperium. It is the beginning of something far more terrifying. Reform enforced by an immortal who no longer compromises. And Chapter 1 is not yet finished. The Emperor's gaze finally turns beyond Terra, beyond institutions and warriors, beyond even humanity itself. He looks outward. into the Immaterium, into the roiling, screaming madness that has gnawed at reality since before recorded time. The warp does not welcome him, it recoils. For 10,000 years, the Chaos Gods have circled his dying presence like carrion beasts, feeding on humanity's fear, devotion, and endless war. They whispered into dreams, corrupted champions, and reshaped entire civilizations, all while believing the Emperor broken, trapped, and fading. They mistook endurance for weakness. Now they realize their error. The Emperor does not confront them with rage. Rage belongs to gods. He confronts them with intent. The warp convulses as his consciousness presses against it, not as a god seeking worship, but as a will that refuses its rules. He was never meant to dominate the Immaterium. He was meant to starve it. The imperial truth was not arrogance, it was strategy. A galaxy without superstition would have been a galaxy without gods. Chaos understands this now, far too late. The Emperor feels what the Imperium has become, an engine of eternal war, conflict without end, faith without truth. Every battle feeds the warp, every prayer strengthens it. Humanity has unknowingly become the Chaos God's greatest resource. This is the final, unbearable irony. And it is why the Emperor's first true war is not against them. It is against the conditions that allow them to exist. He understands that if he were to strike directly, the warp would erupt, reality would fracture, countless worlds would die screaming as the Immaterium floods real space. No. This must be done with precision, with patience, with cruelty disguised as salvation. The Emperor begins to sever connections. Across the galaxy, warp storms shift unpredictably. Demonic manifestations falter, not vanishing, but weakening. Psychers feel something change, an absence, like pressure slowly lifting from their minds. Not relief, something worse, exposure. The warp no longer answers as eagerly as it once did. Chaos notices. The gods rage, not because they are wounded, but because they are being ignored. They scream into the void, hurling champions and abominations at the Imperium in sudden, desperate offensives. They sense what is coming, a slow death, a future where belief dries up, where humanity no longer feeds them. The Emperor watches these reactions with grim certainty. He has seen this before. Gods panic when starved. But the cost will be unimaginable. Billions will die during the transition. Worlds will fall when miracles no longer answer prayers. Entire armies will break when faith is stripped away and nothing replaces it fast enough. The Emperor accepts this without hesitation. He has always understood that survival demands sacrifice. Mercy is a luxury of stable eras, and stability must be earned in blood. This is why his awakening is not hope, it is triage. The Emperor begins laying the foundations of a new Imperium, not through proclamation, but through enforcement. Science reemerges where scripture once ruled. Forbidden technologies are reclaimed. Knowledge long sealed by dogma is unleashed, regardless of fear. Progress returns, not gently, but violently. Those who resist are not negotiated with. They are removed. The galaxy begins to understand the shape of the future, and it terrifies everyone. Loyalists fear him as much as heretics. Allies question whether this resurrected emperor is the same being they once served. Even the most faithful space marines feel something fracture inside them. This is not their god. This is their creator. And creators are not merciful to failed designs. By the time the Imperium realizes what is happening, it is already too late to turn back. The Emperor has not come to restore the old order. He has come to burn it down and force something stronger to rise from its ashes. Chaos will fight him. Humanity will fear him. History will curse him. He does not care. Because for the first time since the Horus Heresy, the Emperor of mankind is no longer reacting, he is acting. And this ruthless reordering of reality itself is only the beginning. Chapter 1 ends here. The galaxy has seen what the Emperor would destroy first. Next, it will learn what he intends to build.
The galaxy lies in uneasy silence. Terra's cathedrals, once shouting the Emperor's divinity across the stars, now stand as hollow monuments to obedience and superstition. Across the Imperium, whispers circulate like contagion. The Emperor is awake, and he is not pleased. The High Lords of Terra retreat into their chambers, unsure whether to pray, plan, or flee. The Inquisition fractures under the weight of revelation, their unchecked power suddenly rendered irrelevant. Space Marines across 1,000 chapters pause in meditation or patrol, sensing the psychic pressure of a master who no longer tolerates compromise. The Emperor does not move blindly. His first acts are surgical, precise, and terrifying. On Terra, entire bureaucracies are disbanded, records are purged, puppet governors recalled or executed. Every system, every planetary governor, every council must be reoriented toward truth, purpose, and progress. Humanity cannot thrive while feeding gods that do not exist, while clinging to rituals that stunt reason. The first step is clarity. Knowledge, once forbidden by dogma, is reclaimed. Universities and academies suppressed for millennia awaken. Archives previously sealed by the ecclesiarchy and rogue administratum agents open their doors. The Imperium begins to breathe with intelligence, if only cautiously, and if only because it has no choice. The Emperor's presence reaches the Space Marines next. Across the galaxy, chapters feel the psychic waves of his authority. The angels of death kneel first, as they always do, sensing both pride and disappointment. Other chapters, corrupted by superstition, dogma, or pragmatism, hesitate. Some falter in the presence of a truth they cannot deny, visions of the Great Crusade appearing unfiltered in their minds. These flashes are not guidance, they are reminders of what they were meant to be: protectors, warriors, and above all, instruments of human survival, not symbols of worship. Even the Emperor's most loyal creations experience unease. They sense change, a reordering that will not merely shift allegiances, but redefine identity. Ceramite-clad warriors who once followed dogma unquestioningly are now forced to confront the reality of purpose. The chapters that cling to ritual feel the weight of centuries of misinterpretation pressing against their minds. Only those willing to adapt, to embrace discipline over superstition, will survive intact. But the Emperor does not rush, he is patient. Centuries of oversight have taught him the value of measured intervention. He knows that immediate annihilation, while satisfying, could unravel more than it corrects. Entire sectors teeter on the brink of collapse. Worlds raised on dogma could burn before they understand the necessity of change. And so he acts with precision, ensuring that each step, each revelation, each purge achieves maximum effect. Across the galaxy, signals of reform begin to appear. Administrators previously loyal to tradition report to new chains of command without protest. Inquisitorial forces fracture, some fleeing to hide, others swearing loyalty to directives they barely comprehend. The Emperor's authority, once mediated through myth, now becomes tangible. His will is law, and disobedience is no longer abstract, it is mortal. And in the shadows, chaos trembles. The gods sense not defiance, but strategy. Their minions falter, sensing that this Emperor operates beyond mortal expectation. He does not scream or strike with divine wrath. He acts like a master chess player, removing pawns, destabilizing control, and preparing the board for moves that no enemy can anticipate. The Imperium will survive, but only if it is reshaped in his image, unflinching, uncorrupted, and unafraid. The first worlds to feel this new order are not those on the front lines. They are the bureaucracies, the temples, the institutions that have thrived for millennia under deception. The Emperor dismantles them quietly, lethally, and invisibly, leaving only the bones necessary to rebuild. The galaxy watches, uncertain, terrified, and awestruck. The foundation of judgment has been laid, and from it the Emperor will construct a new Imperium, one not guided by faith, myth, or fear, but by reason, discipline, and the unyielding will of the master of mankind. The Emperor's attention now stretches beyond Terra, reaching the stars themselves. The Imperium's fleets, once scattered, inefficient, and bogged down by dogma, feel his presence like an invisible hand tightening control over the void. Admirals pause mid-command, feeling the psychic weight of the master of mankind across light years. Battle fleets that had acted autonomously for centuries now align instinctively, their movements guided not by orders, but by the subtle imperatives of a mind that has anticipated every contingency. Technology long abandoned or hidden from humanity stirs. The Emperor's mind reaches into ancient manufactorums and forbidden archives. The secrets of the dark age of technology, long buried under layers of fear and superstition, awaken at his will. STCs, thought lost or corrupted, hum into existence. Planetary defenses recalibrate under his unseen guidance. Entire worlds adjust their orbiting infrastructure to maximize efficiency and protection. Humanity is reminded of its potential and the tools it once had to shape its destiny. The fleets themselves are instruments of this change. Warships that had been corroded by bureaucracy or left to rust in orbit are reactivated. Dreadnoughts long entombed are awakened, their pilots still alive in the flesh encased by ceramite. Their psychic link with the Emperor sharpens, transforming them from guardians into extensions of his will. Tactical doctrines, once steeped in superstition, are rewritten in the mind of the Emperor and transmitted instantly across the galaxy. Every ship, every marine, every soldier begins to act not merely under command, but under perfect understanding. Meanwhile, chaos forces react with panic. Demons sense the shift, the subtle recalibration of the Imperium's psychic field. Where before belief fueled their strength, now uncertainty reigns. Every loyalist system brought into alignment becomes a weak point in the warp's power, a thorn in the side of the gods that has never been more vulnerable. They strike with frenzied desperation, hurling champions, warp storms, and cults against the imperial systems that are being cleansed and restructured. The Emperor anticipates each attack, each deception, each betrayal. His mind moves faster than theirs, his foresight turning chaos itself into a predictable opponent. The Space Marines, now fully aware of the Emperor's will, act as his immediate agents. Chapters that once squabbled over doctrine or territory fall into line. Their gene seed purity and battle readiness are reevaluated, and those who cannot adhere to his vision are removed. Entire chapters are reconditioned, trained anew, or, if necessary, disbanded. Loyalty is no longer to a myth or ideology, but to the Emperor's vision of humanity's survival. The galaxy's finest warriors become living instruments of strategic perfection. On Terra, the ground quakes not from artillery or Xenos attacks, but from the psychic ripple of a will reshaping civilization. Administrators and governors who survived the initial purges now find themselves in a new order. Decisions are no longer driven by self-preservation or politics. They are executed with ruthless efficiency.
efficiency. The Imperium structure, once a fragile mesh of superstition and bureaucracy, begins to operate as a single coherent organism, its lifeblood pumped by knowledge, discipline, and the absolute authority of the master of mankind. Yet the Emperor does not stop at administration or warfare. He understands that the mind of humanity itself must be reoriented. Schools are reopened, text corrected, propaganda purged. A new generation of psychers is trained not to worship, not to fear, but to serve knowledge and duty. Information flows where ignorance once reigned. The Imperium's foundation is being rebuilt on truth, not myth. And all of it begins silently. The galaxy will not understand the scope of the change until centuries later, but the first seeds of rebirth are already sown. The Emperor's awakening is no longer about punishing the past. It is about constructing a future that can endure both men and gods. For the first time in 10 millennia, humanity has a chance to survive, but only if it embraces the vision of the being who destroyed its illusions and reclaims its potential. The Emperor's gaze now stretches beyond fleets and administrators. He turns toward the Primarchs, his sons, scattered across the galaxy like stars cast adrift in darkness. Centuries of absence have allowed some to flourish, others to decay. Each carries the weight of legacy and expectation, but none have lived as he intended. Some are loyal, some are stubborn, and a few have strayed into dangerous ideologies, swayed by ambition or despair. His return is seismic. Across the stars, psychic echoes of his presence strike like hammers. The loyalist Primarchs feel a blend of relief and fear, emotions amplified by the psychic resonance that connects them to the Emperor. Rogel Dorn stands rigid, the foundations of the Imperium now visible through his father's eyes. Lion L. Johnson contemplates the secrets of Caliban and its ruined forests, sensing judgment in the calm fury of the Emperor. Guilliman, ever meticulous, feels the fragility of his ultramarine system exposed under scrutiny. Even those who have remained loyal cannot escape the awareness that their decisions will now be measured against an immortal standard. Then come the rebel Primarchs, those who chose heresy during the Horus Heresy. They are not informed by ignorance, they are informed by history, by betrayal, by the long absence of guidance. When the Emperor reaches their minds, the galaxy trembles. Horus, long dead in body, remembered in psychic echoes of treachery, shivers as the weight of unfulfilled potential presses. Angron and Mortarion, their forces still festering in distant war zones, sense the inevitability of confrontation. No demonic protection, no legion of chaos-worshipping followers can shield them from the intellect and strategy of the master of mankind. The Emperor does not speak, he acts. First, subtle recalibrations ripple through the galaxy. Strategic fortresses are realigned, supply lines corrected, armies repositioned, all guided invisibly by his consciousness. Then, direct confrontations begin. Loyalists are reinforced, heretics are isolated, worlds under chaos siege are liberated, not with fanfare, but through perfect coordination. Fleets strike with the precision of preordained inevitability. The Emperor's mind directs countless actions at once, each a thread in the grand tapestry of reclamation. His interactions with the Primarchs are equally precise. Loyalists are reminded of purpose beyond politics or pride, their flaws tempered with insight gained over millennia. Rebel Primarchs are confronted with undeniable truth. The Emperor's vision of humanity's survival supersedes all personal vendettas. He does not plead, nor does he coerce with emotion. He imposes clarity. Decisions once clouded by rage or ambition now crumble under the weight of cosmic authority. Some understand immediately, others resist instinctively, but they are few, and their resistance is a short-lived echo in a galaxy he now surveys as one mind. Chaos forces react violently. Warp storms intensify where rebels hold sway. Demons surge into real space. Cults arise with blasphemous fervor.
Yet the Emperor is always ahead. Anticipation is his tool, patience his weapon. Each strike, each defense, each liberation of a world is calculated with millennia of foresight. Chaos is adaptive, yes, but it is reactive. Humanity, guided by its creator, becomes the first true offensive force against the gods themselves, and even their minions falter in the presence of inevitability. The Imperium witnesses transformations unseen since the Great Crusade. Loyalist forces coordinate seamlessly. Dreadnoughts awaken to act as vanguard and judge. Administrators and governors, once hesitant and self-serving, implement radical reforms under psychic pressure. The Emperor's vision moves from abstract to tangible. Every sector touched by his presence becomes a microcosm of perfection, disciplined and unyielding. And yet, he does not stop. The galaxy is vast, and his plans stretch beyond immediate victories. He understands that to preserve humanity, to starve chaos permanently, he must act across centuries simultaneously, manipulating events with precision. Worlds are saved not by heroism alone, but by design. Battles are won before they begin because strategy flows from a mind older than war itself. This is the Emperor's work, cosmic, methodical, terrifying. He destroys what has failed, he rebuilds what can endure, and he molds even his sons into instruments of an Imperium reborn. The galaxy quivers under the presence of a being who no longer tolerates compromise. With the Primarchs aligned, the fleets mobilized, and the bureaucracies purged, the Emperor turns fully toward the wider Imperium. Every sector, every system, every world becomes part of a grand design, a network of efficiency, discipline, and survival. The old Imperium, held together by superstition and fear, is no more. In its place rises an order dictated by reason, enforced by will, and protected by overwhelming power. Across the stars, chaos reacts violently. Warp storms intensify over rebellious systems. Demonic incursions multiply, attempting to exploit any hesitation. Cults fanatically devoted to old gods rise in frenzy, preaching war and slaughter. Yet the Emperor is always steps ahead. His perception of space and time stretches beyond mortal comprehension. He anticipates not only the actions of his enemies, but also their reactions to each of his interventions. Every fleet maneuver, every planetary liberation, every psychic pulse is calculated to weaken chaos and strengthen the Imperium simultaneously. The Emperor's reforms extend beyond battle. Technology, once suppressed by dogma, is reclaimed and adapted. STCs thought lost for millennia awaken under his guidance, and manufactorums hum with renewed purpose. Worlds previously crippled by superstition find themselves rebuilt with tools and knowledge once forbidden. Civilizations begin to operate not under fear, but efficiency, not under worship, but understanding. Education, administration, and governance are restructured to align with the Emperor's vision, humanity optimized, disciplined, and self-sufficient. Space Marines serve as his enforcers, moving across the galaxy with unwavering loyalty and precision. Chapters once bogged down in ritual or superstition are retrained or reorganized. Those unwilling to adapt are replaced or disbanded. Loyalists become instruments of strategy, carrying the Emperor's will to every corner of the Imperium. Dreadnoughts awaken, their living pilots integrated into his designs, acting as both guardians and judges. These ancient warriors, infused with millennia of wisdom and combat experience, serve as the backbone of the new Imperium's enforcement. The Emperor also focuses on psychers, the conduits between humanity and the warp. Their training is redefined, no longer tools for worship, but disciplined instruments for knowledge, defense, and the guidance of human destiny. Warp energy is harnessed with precision, feeding neither belief nor corruption, but strategic advantage. The psychic network that fuels the Astronomicon stabilizes, reinforcing human control over the immaterium, weakening chaos with every passing moment.
Chaos gods, sensing the recalibration, lash out desperately. Entire sectors burn under their assaults, but the Emperor's interventions are simultaneous and preemptive. Worlds are liberated, fleets coordinated, demonic incursions crushed with unparalleled efficiency. Every strike against the Imperium is met with an even greater invisible countermeasure. The Emperor does not merely fight, he reshapes the battlefield before it exists, ensuring that survival and victory are inevitable. On Terra, the Emperor oversees these transformations with detached focus. He does not reward loyalty with words, nor punish failure with emotion. His judgment is absolute, impartial, and precise. Every world, every system, every military force is realigned to serve humanity's survival, not faith, not tradition, and not superstition. He rebuilds an Imperium that is streamlined, incorruptible, and unyielding, a foundation strong enough to endure the machinations of gods and men alike. And yet, for all this, the Emperor's work is just beginning. The galaxy, vast and chaotic, cannot be perfected in a single century or millennium. His vision stretches far beyond immediate reforms. He plans, predicts, and prepares, ensuring that every action taken now ripples forward, shaping centuries of stability, resistance, and unbroken survival. The Imperium trembles, reorganizes, and begins to rise. Chaos recoils, frightened by the precision and inevitability of his return, and the galaxy, long accustomed to fear and superstition, starts to glimpse the terrifying brilliance of a ruler who destroys to rebuild, and who rebuilds only in his image.
The galaxy quivers beneath a presence that defies comprehension. The Emperor of mankind no longer tolerates the imperfections of an Imperium grown stagnant, complacent, and corrupted by millennia of dogma. From Terra, his awareness radiates across the stars, touching the most distant outposts, stirring the hearts of loyalists, and striking terror into the corrupted and heretical alike. Chaos feels him before any mortal could, and even the gods of the warp sense the cold inevitability of judgment. The first worlds to face direct reform are those teetering on the edge of rebellion, those overrun by cults, chaos incursions, or misguided zealotry. Entire systems, once loyal only in name, experience a transformation of scale and precision unlike anything previously witnessed. Administrators and governors are not merely removed, they are reprogrammed, their knowledge and loyalty realigned under the Emperor's will. Dissent is crushed with ruthless efficiency, not for vengeance, but for the survival of humanity itself. Across the stars, the Emperor deploys the Imperium's finest warriors, space marines of countless chapters, resurrected dreadnoughts, and newly disciplined psychers. Their coordination is unprecedented. Where fleets once acted autonomously, now they move as extensions of a single, unyielding mind. Warp storms are anticipated and countered before they form. Demonic incursions are neutralized with surgical precision. The Emperor does not fight blindly. He predicts, anticipates, and manipulates the flow of war across the galaxy with a cold, inexorable logic. The Primarchs, reunited under his presence, serve as both commanders and symbols of the Imperium's rebirth. Loyalists are bolstered by guidance that combines the wisdom of millennia with the strategy of an intellect that has shaped civilizations. Rebel Primarchs, those who once defied him, are given choices: align with the vision he embodies or face the eradication of their forces. There is no negotiation, there is only clarity, and the galaxy quickly learns that the Emperor's word is absolute. On the battlefield, the effects of his return are staggering. Dreadnoughts awaken with living pilots fully integrated into his will. Space Marines execute campaigns with unprecedented precision, and the Imperium's fleets strike as one cohesive force.
Worlds held by chaos tremble before the first engagement, for the psychic signature of the Emperor radiates control and inevitability. Demons falter, cultists scatter, and warlords are stripped of influence before the first weapon is fired. Yet the Emperor's strategy is not merely martial. He rebuilds infrastructure, restores knowledge, and reclaims technology once lost or forbidden. STCs awaken, manufactoriums hum with life, and entire planetary systems adjust to new paradigms of governance, production, and defense. Human civilizations are no longer shackled by superstition. They operate under discipline, reason, and the direct guidance of the being who forged their species. Even the psychers, once instruments of the warp or pawns of blind faith, are reshaped. Their abilities are harnessed, disciplined, and redirected toward strategic ends. No longer conduits for superstition or chaos, they become vital nodes in the psychic web that sustains and guides the Imperium. Their powers are not worshipped, they are commanded. Through this combination of force, insight, and preparation, the Emperor achieves a vision few have ever imagined, a galaxy-wide recalibration of humanity's destiny. Worlds that were lost to superstition, heresy, or chaos begin to stabilize. Fleets act with perfect coordination. Armies fight with discipline and purpose. The Imperium, long fragmented and corrupted, begins to resemble the precise, unstoppable machine he always envisioned. And still, the Emperor does not pause. This is only the opening salvo of his reckoning. For every world reformed, every system aligned, the gods of chaos seethe, plotting, attempting, yet always reacting. The Emperor moves faster, strikes smarter, and reshapes the battlefield in ways they cannot anticipate. He does not merely reclaim what was lost, he designs what must endure. The galaxy begins to understand a terrifying truth. The Emperor has returned not to restore. He has returned to reshape, to judge, and to construct a future where humanity can survive against both mortal failings and immortal foes. The Emperor's attention turns to the galaxy still under the sway of chaos. These worlds, teeming with corruption, cultists, and demonic infestations, are no longer hidden from his sight. Warp-tainted skies, corrupted populations, and heretical fleets all vibrate under the weight of his psychic awareness. The daemons sense his presence first, recoiling with fear and malice, their influence waning as the Imperium's psychic lattice, guided by the Emperor, strengthens. Where chaos once dictated the flow of war, now the Emperor dictates its counter. Entire planetary systems are liberated before the enemy fully comprehends the assault. Loyalist space marines, guided by his foresight, strike with precision. Dreadnoughts, awakened and fully synchronized with his will, serve as unstoppable pillars of judgment, breaking sieges and crushing entrenched cults. Warp storms, attempting to shield heretical forces, are redirected, dissipated, or inverted, feeding the Emperor's psychic dominion rather than the god's power. Every engagement demonstrates a terrifying truth. The Emperor sees the battlefield in totality, and nothing escapes his mind. On worlds dominated by rebellion or chaos influence, administrators, governors, and military leaders are purged or re-educated under his direct oversight. No bureaucrat can obstruct his will. Civilizations once held hostage by superstition, fear, and corruption find themselves liberated, not by chance, but by design. Entire societies begin functioning under the Emperor's principles: reason over faith, discipline over chaos, and survival over ideology. Education, governance, and war-making are reconstructed simultaneously, creating worlds capable of independent, rational operation while still serving the greater Imperium. Empires turning enemy attacks into opportunities, crushing chaos in a web of calculated inevitability. Psychers, once corrupted or misused, now function as nodes in a psychic network of enforcement and observation. Their power channels into the astronomonic, extending the Emperor's awareness, stabilizing the Imperium's psychic infrastructure, and suppressing warp-based threats before they can fully manifest. Chaos finds its influence reduced not through brute force alone, but through a methodical restructuring of reality itself. The Emperor's interventions are not just military or psychic, they are systemic. Worlds are reshaped socially, economically, and militarily. Corruption is excised, false faith eradicated, knowledge restored. Star systems, once dormant under superstition, hum with disciplined efficiency. Every planet liberated from chaos becomes a testament to his vision, an Imperium designed to endure. And yet, the Emperor does not pause. Even as chaos falters, new threats emerge. Systems that had remained neutral, unaligned, or ignorant of the Imperium's awakening are assessed. Fleets are deployed, leaders examined, and contingencies prepared. Nothing is left to chance. The galaxy, vast and complex, bends under the inexorable will of the master of mankind. The consequences are immediate and brutal. Billions of lives are spared from eternal corruption, but countless more are lost in the systematic purges and planetary reorganizations required to stabilize regions of space once ruled by chaos. Worlds burn, cults are exterminated, and daemons are banished. Never mind the screams, for in the Emperor's calculation, this suffering is necessary for the survival of humanity. The Imperium rises again, purified and reforged. Chaos retreats, recalibrating, but already aware that its dominion has been irrevocably challenged. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy faces a future shaped not by superstition, nor fear, nor gods, but the living hand of its creator. The galaxy has felt his presence for decades, yet the Emperor's work is far from complete. With fleets synchronized, worlds liberated, and chaos on the defensive, he now focuses on consolidation. The creation of an Imperium capable of enduring not just centuries, but millennia against gods, demons, and the failings of man itself. On Terra, the Emperor oversees the rebuilding of the planetary capital and the reorganization of every sector's administration. No governor, no planetary council, no ecclesiarchal authority is left untouched. Each is evaluated, realigned, or removed, their functions absorbed into a system designed for efficiency and survival. Laws, once tangled in superstition and politics, are rewritten to reflect rational governance. Education, industry, and military oversight are restructured, forming a framework in which every system contributes optimally to the Imperium's stability. Beyond administration, the Emperor addresses the fabric of humanity itself. Space Marines, reconditioned and unified under his psychic guidance, become instruments of cosmic order. Chapters that once squabbled over honor, tradition, or dogma now act as extensions of his will, executing campaigns across multiple sectors with unmatched precision. Dreadnoughts serve as both guardians and judges, their living pilots fully synchronized to the Emperor's strategic intent. Every action taken is calculated, every outcome anticipated. Chaos, now reeling, strikes desperately. Demonic forces surge, attempting to exploit any perceived weakness. Warp storms flare unpredictably, and cults rise with violent zeal. Yet every attack is anticipated. The Emperor reshapes the battlefield before it exists, turning enemy maneuvers into opportunities. He does not merely repel chaos, he reorganizes it, predicting patterns, countering every advance, and isolating corrupted systems for precise purges. Nothing is left to chance. Psychers form the backbone of this restructuring. Their abilities are disciplined, integrated into a psychic network that stabilizes the Imperium and suppresses warp incursion. The Astronomicon pulses with renewed strength, guiding fleets and armies across light years with perfect clarity. Warp-tainted regions are neutralized systematically, while loyal systems benefit from unprecedented protection and efficiency. Humanity's survival no longer depends on chance, prayer, or superstition. It depends on the Emperor's unyielding will. Even the Primarchs, reunited and aligned, act as instruments in this grand design. Loyal sons implement strategies with ruthless efficiency. Formerly rebellious Primarchs face choices that range from submission to obliteration, their forces deployed as both leverage and example. The Emperor's influence ensures that unity is absolute, deviation is impossible. What was once a fragmented galaxy now operates as a cohesive organism guided by the mind that forged mankind itself. Yet this consolidation is not without cost. Worlds once steeped in superstition, heresy, or chaos influence are purged brutally. Entire populations may suffer or perish under the precision of judgment necessary to stabilize the Imperium. Billions are spared from warp corruption, but countless more are sacrificed in the construction of an order capable of enduring beyond the gods' reach. This is not cruelty, it is calculation. The Emperor's vision of survival tolerates no weakness. By the time the Imperium fully comprehends his return, the galaxy has already been reshaped. Systems align, fleets operate flawlessly, space marines execute perfect campaigns, and the warp itself is subdued in regions critical to humanity's survival. Chaos has been checked, corrupted systems restored or destroyed, and the foundations of a new order laid. The Emperor does not declare victory. He does not seek adulation. His gaze turns outward, surveying the stars with the cold certainty of a creator who destroys to create, who judges without mercy, and who molds humanity into an instrument capable of enduring even the gods themselves. And in this moment, the galaxy finally begins to understand the terrifying brilliance of the Emperor, a being who destroys to create, who judges without mercy, and who molds humanity into an instrument capable of enduring even the gods themselves.
The Emperor of mankind does not rest. His work is far from over. Having purged chaos, realigned fleets, and reunited the Primarchs, he now turns to the deepest roots of the Imperium, human civilization itself. Worlds that had survived through superstition, dogma, and fear are now subjected to an invisible yet absolute discipline. The Emperor's psychic influence touches every administrator, every planetary governor, every academy, every forge world. Decisions are no longer random or self-serving. They are calculated, optimized, and aligned to the survival of humanity. On Terra, the Emperor oversees the restructuring of the planetary capital and its surrounding systems. Libraries once sealed by the ecclesiarchy are reopened. Knowledge long suppressed is restored. Academies, manufactorums, and research stations hum with renewed activity as the Emperor's guidance spreads like a web across the globe. Education is no longer ritualistic, it is functional, teaching the skills required to survive and advance in a galaxy where chaos and ignorance once reigned supreme. Beyond Terra, worlds once mired in superstition and inefficiency are restructured. Administrators loyal only to old doctrines are replaced or retrained. Governors who cannot meet the Emperor's exacting standards are removed. Planetary systems adapt to new regulations designed to maximize both survival and contribution to the greater Imperium. Trade, defense, and resource allocation are coordinated across entire sectors with unprecedented precision. Humanity begins to function as a single organism, each world a vital cell in a galaxy-spanning body under the Emperor's control. The Emperor's reforms extend to culture, belief, and information. Religion, superstition, and myths that had allowed chaos to thrive are methodically removed or repurposed. Citizens are not coerced with fear, but guided toward understanding, reason, and practical purpose. Information flows freely where ignorance once dominated, and humanity begins to understand itself in a way previously impossible. The Imperium's mental and psychic landscape is being rewritten, not with propaganda, but with truth and clarity filtered through the mind of its creator.
Space Marines act as enforcers and educators, ensuring that these reforms are not merely theoretical. Chapters move through entire sectors, providing security, guidance, and when necessary, judgment. Dreadnoughts, fully synchronized with the Emperor's psychic will, serve as both guardians and symbols of accountability. Loyal Primarchs oversee large campaigns to enforce discipline and alignment, while previously rebellious ones are integrated carefully into the new system, their armies repurposed for rebuilding and stabilization. The Emperor also addresses the human mind itself. Psychers are reconditioned, trained, and integrated into a network that stabilizes the Astronomicon and reinforces human control over the warp. Their psychic abilities are no longer instruments of superstition or tools of chaos, but vital nodes in a galaxy-wide system designed for defense, coordination, and survival. Warp phenomena that had once ravaged entire sectors are mitigated before they can manifest fully. Across the stars, chaos reels in response. Incursions, cult uprisings, and demonic infestations are systematically countered. Every maneuver by enemy forces is anticipated and neutralized. No battle is fought blindly. Every strike is coordinated on a cosmic scale. Every liberated world a foundation for the new Imperium. The galaxy itself begins to obey the design of its creator, and even the gods of chaos pause, aware that they face an adversary far beyond mortal or divine comprehension. The Emperor does not celebrate victories. There is no fanfare, no adulation. His gaze remains fixed on the next challenge. Billions of lives may be affected by his reforms, yet in his calculation, each sacrifice, each restructuring is necessary for the survival and advancement of humanity. Efficiency, survival, and clarity take precedence over comfort, sentiment, or tradition. The Imperium begins to emerge not as a collection of worlds, but as a cohesive, self-sustaining organism. Order, discipline, and purpose flow from the Emperor's will across light years, stabilizing the galaxy in a way that has not been seen since the Great Crusade. Chaos may linger, but it is being systematically suffocated, its influence waning under the weight of perfect coordination and psychic authority. The Emperor's vision reaches into every corner of the Imperium. Worlds that had once functioned independently, haphazardly, or under superstition are now systematically reorganized. Planetary governance is no longer a matter of politics or personal gain. It is a precise system of responsibility, oversight, and efficiency. Governors and administrators who fail to meet his standards are removed or re-educated, their authority absorbed into a galaxy-spanning structure built for survival, not comfort. Industrial worlds hum with purpose. Manufactorums, once constrained by tradition or ecclesiastical interference, operate under the Emperor's directives. Production lines run flawlessly. STCs long lost to superstition or bureaucracy are restored, and armies are equipped with technology previously forbidden. Entire sectors recalibrate their economies to support the Imperium's military and societal needs. Every world contributes optimally, forming a galaxy-wide machine where no cog is wasted and no resource mismanaged. The Emperor's reforms extend to the military and defense systems. Space Marine chapters are strategically repositioned across sectors, ensuring rapid response to any threat. Dreadnoughts, fully integrated into his psychic guidance, act as both vanguard and judge. Fleets move with unprecedented precision, their coordination synchronized by his awareness. Warp storms are mitigated before they form, and chaos incursions are preemptively countered. Humanity's armies are no longer reactive. They are extensions of the Emperor's will, capable of executing strategies on a galactic scale. Education and culture are reshaped. Citizens once bound by superstition and dogma are now trained to understand the mechanics of survival, governance, and progress. Libraries, academies, and research stations flourish under his guidance. Knowledge flows freely where ignorance once prevailed, and humanity begins to perceive itself in the way the Emperor intended: rational, disciplined, and aware of both its potential and its fragility. Superstition is replaced with reason, faith with understanding, and myth with truth. Psychers play a central role in maintaining order. Their powers, once exploited by cults or used for worship, are disciplined and integrated into the Imperium's psychic network. Warp energy is harnessed to reinforce communication, fleet coordination, and planetary defense. Regions once vulnerable to demonic influence or warp storms are stabilized, making chaos's influence increasingly difficult. The Astronomicon pulses with renewed strength, a beacon not of faith but of control, guiding the Imperium's forces with unmatched clarity. The Emperor also implements long-term strategy. Systems that had remained neutral or unaligned are assessed and integrated, ensuring no gaps remain in the Imperium's network. Entire sectors are reorganized to function autonomously, yet contribute to the larger order. Supply lines, defensive positions, and communication networks are recalibrated to ensure maximum efficiency. Every decision, every deployment, every planetary adjustment is made with foresight measured in centuries, not years. Chaos reacts, as always, with desperate aggression. Demons surge, cults riot, and corrupted warlords lash out. But every attack is anticipated, every contingency planned, and every threat neutralized before it can escalate. The Emperor does not merely defend, he designs victory into the fabric of reality itself. The Imperium emerges from this phase of reconstruction not just stronger, but fundamentally transformed. Worlds are stabilized, fleets coordinated, armies disciplined, and civilizations educated. The galaxy begins to function as the Emperor intended, a single organism guided by reason, purpose, and the unyielding will of its creator. Chaos, though persistent, is systematically suppressed, and the foundations of a new, enduring Imperium are laid with precision that surpasses even the Great Crusade.
The Emperor of Mankind's work is now a galaxy-spanning masterpiece of disciplined structure and strategic precision. With fleets coordinated, systems aligned, and chaos subdued, he turns his focus to the long-term endurance of the Imperium. Worlds are no longer isolated entities. They are integral nodes in a vast organism, each contributing to humanity's survival, stability, and eventual supremacy. The Emperor's reforms extend to governance on a scale unprecedented. Administrators, governors, and planetary leaders are trained, guided, or replaced to ensure absolute efficiency. Civilizations adapt quickly under his unseen hand, learning to operate within systems designed for survival rather than superstition. Infrastructure is rationalized, trade networks optimized, and defense grids synchronized. Every world becomes capable of independent functioning while remaining fully integrated into the Imperium's network. Humanity is no longer a collection of disparate worlds. It is a unified organism, breathing, fighting, and thinking under the Emperor's guidance. Military restructuring reaches its zenith. Space Marine chapters, aligned with the Emperor's will, are positioned for rapid deployment across the galaxy. Dreadnoughts, psychic nodes, and fleets act as extensions of a single consciousness. Warp storms, once tools of chaos, are neutralized before they can form, their energy redirected to reinforce the Imperium's strategic network. Battles are won before they are fought, enemies anticipated, and chaos rendered reactive. The Emperor does not merely orchestrate war, he enforces inevitability. Education and culture are also meticulously reconstructed. Knowledge lost to superstition and fear is restored. Academies, libraries, and research stations operate under guidance designed to cultivate intelligence, skill, and purpose. Citizens are educated to understand strategy, governance, and the importance of their role in the Imperium. Myths, dogmas, and blind faith are replaced with comprehension and practicality. Humanity is taught to survive, think, and advance under the steady hand of its master. Psychers, once a volatile and dangerous element, are fully integrated into the Emperor's psychic web. Their abilities are disciplined, coordinated, and used to reinforce communication, defense, and strategic oversight across entire sectors.
Warp energy, once a chaotic threat, now flows as a tool of order, bolstering fleets, armies, and planetary systems. The Astronomicon pulses with unmatched clarity, extending the Emperor's awareness and control across the galaxy. Chaos, though battered, does not relent. Demons surge in desperation, cults rise with fanatical zeal, and rogue warlords attempt to exploit perceived gaps. Yet every strike is anticipated, neutralized, or redirected. The Emperor's mind moves faster than their plans, every move countered before it becomes a threat. The galaxy itself bends under his will, and the forces of chaos realize that they are no longer opponents, they are obstacles in a design far greater than themselves. Through these measures, the Emperor sets the foundation for a future impervious to corruption, superstition, and inefficiency. Billions are saved from the scourge of chaos, though the price of order is always exacted with precision. Systems are cleansed, fleets disciplined, and civilizations guided into alignment with his vision. The Imperium now stands as a cohesive, enduring entity, a testament to the intellect, foresight, and absolute authority of the master of mankind. The galaxy understands a final, terrifying truth. The Emperor does not simply fight for humanity. He shapes it, safeguards it, and molds it into an organism capable of surviving even the gods themselves. The Imperium is no longer merely a collection of worlds. It is a machine of survival, and the Emperor is its eternal, unyielding architect. The galaxy holds its breath. After centuries of chaos, rebellion, and the endless struggle against the warp, the Emperor of mankind now imposes his final vision. His presence radiates across the Imperium like a living edict. Worlds, fleets, armies, and psychers alike align to his will, their actions no longer dictated by chance, fear, or superstition, but by the perfect calculation of a mind that has seen the rise and fall of civilizations. The Emperor's first act in this final phase is to stabilize the Imperium completely. Entire sectors once plagued by rebellion or chaos influence are brought into absolute compliance. Planetary governors, once hesitant or corrupt, are replaced or guided with psychic authority. Administrators are retrained in the Emperor's vision of governance. Civilizations awaken to a new order, knowledge restored, superstition replaced with reason, and purpose aligned to survival and progress. Each world becomes not a mere colony, but an integral part of a living, galaxy-spanning organism. Military systems are perfected. Space Marine chapters are positioned in a web of defense and rapid response, their movements choreographed across sectors. Dreadnoughts act simultaneously as guardians, judges, and symbols of authority. Fleets operate with unmatched coordination, psychic guidance ensuring that every engagement is decisive and every threat neutralized before it fully manifests. Warp storms, cult uprisings, and demon incursions are anticipated and nullified. The galaxy itself obeys the Emperor's will. Psychers serve as the arteries of this new Imperium. Integrated into a disciplined psychic network, their powers stabilize the warp, enhance communication, and extend the Emperor's awareness across light years. The Astronomicon pulses with unparalleled clarity, guiding fleets, armies, and worlds with precision. Warp-tainted sectors are cleansed, heretical forces neutralized, and chaos finds its influence systematically diminished. Humanity's control over the Imperium is no longer tenuous, it is absolute. The Primarchs, reunited and loyal, become the Emperor's instruments of final judgment. Loyal sons lead campaigns to enforce discipline, purge corruption, and integrate previously rogue worlds. Those who had once rebelled are given the stark choice of submission or destruction. Their legions are repurposed, their strategies redirected, and their obedience assured. Every action reinforces the Emperor's singular vision, a galaxy unified under absolute order. The Emperor's focus extends to human culture itself. Education, technology, and industry are recalibrated to serve long-term survival. Libraries and academies flourish, manufactorums produce without error, and entire populations adapt to a new structure of logic and purpose. Myths, dogmas, and superstitions are replaced with comprehension and strategic knowledge. Humanity is no longer at the mercy of belief. It is guided by clarity, reason, and the unyielding hand of its creator. Chaos reacts with blind fury. Demons surge, cults rise, and warlords attempt desperate attacks, but the Emperor is always steps ahead. Every maneuver is anticipated and neutralized. The Imperium no longer reacts, it acts preemptively, decisively, and universally. Worlds that once fell to chaos are liberated. Sectors once fragmented are unified. The galaxy bends under the weight of perfect order, and even the gods of the warp sense the futility of resistance. Through this final consolidation, the Emperor does not merely rule, he constructs a galaxy capable of enduring anything. Humanity's survival is no longer a hope or a gamble, it is an inevitable result of his guidance. The Imperium stands as a testament to his intellect, foresight, and relentless authority. The dawn of absolute order has arrived, and with it, a terrifying yet brilliant vision of the future. The Emperor's gaze sweeps across the galaxy with precision born of millennia. No star system escapes his scrutiny. No fleet, no army, no population beyond the reach of his will. Chaos, though wounded, continues its desperate attempts to cling to influence, yet each movement is anticipated, countered, and dismantled before it can take root. Every world under threat is stabilized, every cult eradicated, every daemon banished. The Emperor's presence is absolute, his judgment is instantaneous. Entire sectors once corrupted by heresy or warlord ambition are realigned. Governors and planetary leaders are purged or guided, their authority fully synchronized with the Emperor's design. Civilizations once fractured by superstition or ignorance now operate with unified purpose. Trade networks are harmonized, manufactorums produce flawlessly, and armies are positioned with strategic foresight across light years. Humanity begins functioning as one organism, with each world a vital part in the Emperor's perfect design. The military arm of the Imperium reaches unparalleled efficiency. Space Marines, loyal and disciplined, are repositioned according to a galactic-scale strategy. Dreadnoughts serve as living bastions of judgment, moving with psychic precision to enforce order and inspire awe. Fleets maneuver with preternatural coordination, striking decisively at rebel, heretic, or chaos-controlled worlds. Warp storms and demonic incursions are neutralized before they manifest fully, ensuring that no enemy can exploit gaps in the Imperium's defenses. Psychers, long misunderstood and feared, are now the backbone of the Emperor's psychic network. Integrated into the Astronomicon, they extend his awareness and control across the galaxy. Warp energy, once a chaotic threat, is disciplined into a tool of order, reinforcing defenses, enhancing communication, and suppressing corruption. Even the most powerful demonic entities feel the weight of his control, their attempts to manipulate reality failing against his foresight. The Primarchs are instruments of final judgment. Loyal sons lead precision campaigns to cleanse, liberate, and secure entire sectors. Those who had rebelled face the inexorable choice of obedience or obliteration. Their forces, repurposed under the Emperor's command, become agents of stabilization. Entire legions act as extensions of his will, executing strategies across multiple fronts with unerring accuracy. The galaxy begins to function as a cohesive, singular organism under his hand. The Emperor also turns to the architecture of civilization itself. Education, industry, and governance are harmonized, creating societies capable of sustained growth and defense. Citizens are taught to understand strategy, reason, and the importance of their role in the Imperium. Religion and superstition are reshaped, ensuring that belief supports structure and survival rather than enabling chaos. Humanity is no longer vulnerable to its own weaknesses. It is guided by clarity, discipline, and the inexorable will of its creator. Even as chaos flares in desperation, the Emperor neutralizes it with calculated perfection. Daemons are driven back into the warp, cults annihilated, and corrupted systems purged. Each strike, each purge, each battle demonstrates the terrifying certainty of his reign. The galaxy realizes that resistance is no longer an option. Survival is predicated on obedience, discipline, and alignment with his vision. Through these final purges and consolidations, the Emperor establishes a new Imperium, absolute, unyielding, and unified. Humanity now stands as a single organism, fortified against both internal decay and external threats. Chaos, though never entirely destroyed, has been permanently weakened. The Imperium is no longer fragile, it is eternal, a testament to the intellect, foresight, and unstoppable authority of its creator. The galaxy trembles, yet it obeys. The Emperor of Mankind stands as the architect of a new era, a presence so absolute that even the forces of chaos falter in his psychic shadow. With fleets, armies, worlds, and psychers fully aligned to his will, the final phase of his work begins, the eternal stabilization of humanity and the completion of the Imperium as a single, indomitable organism. Every world, from the smallest mining colony to the largest hive cities, is integrated into the Emperor's design. Administrators, governors, and planetary councils function with perfect synchronization. Civilizations operate under principles of reason and purpose, their knowledge and technology restored, optimized, and standardized. Education emphasizes strategy, science, and survival, while superstition and dogma are reformed or eradicated. Humanity is no longer fractured by belief, it is unified by clarity and guidance. The military reaches unprecedented perfection. Space Marines execute campaigns with flawless precision. Dreadnoughts enforce order and deliver judgment, and fleets maneuver across light years with preternatural coordination. Warp storms are neutralized or redirected, cult uprisings crushed before they gain momentum, and demonic incursions eradicated with psychic authority. The Emperor does not merely react to threats, he preemptively designs the outcomes, ensuring the survival of humanity and the suppression of chaos. Psychers now act as nodes in a galaxy-wide network. Integrated into the Astronomicon, their abilities amplify the Emperor's reach, stabilize warp currents, and provide instantaneous awareness of events across the Imperium. Warp-tainted sectors are cleansed, corrupted populations are rehabilitated or neutralized, and chaos finds itself unable to maneuver against a mind that anticipates every contingency. The Emperor's influence extends not only to mortal actions, but to the very currents of reality itself. The Primarchs, the sons of the Emperor, act as his instruments of final judgment and guardians of stability. Loyalists lead liberation campaigns, enforce law, and stabilize newly integrated systems. Those who had once resisted him are either absorbed into the structure or destroyed, their legions repurposed as tools of order. The galaxy's military and political apparatus now functions as a single organism, with the Emperor as the central mind directing every movement with absolute clarity. Even the fabric of human society is transformed. Industry, commerce, education, and governance operate in seamless harmony. Citizens are aware of their role in the survival of the Imperium and act accordingly. Technology long lost to superstition or bureaucracy is restored. Worlds once plagued by corruption now contribute efficiently to the Imperium's strength. Humanity itself becomes a disciplined, self-sustaining organism capable of withstanding any threat, mortal or divine. Chaos, though persistent, is irrevocably weakened. Demonic forces are expelled from the material universe, cults are eradicated, and rogue warlords are brought to heel. The gods of the warp, once dominant over mortal realms, find their influence curtailed. The galaxy's new order is unassailable. Resistance is no longer possible. Survival under the Emperor's guidance is inevitable. The Emperor surveys his work with detached clarity. No celebration is needed, no words of victory are spoken. The Imperium has been reforged, a galaxy-wide organism capable of enduring beyond mortal understanding. A civilization strengthened against chaos, superstition, and inefficiency. Humanity's destiny is now secured by the hand of its creator. And as the stars themselves seem to bow to his will, the Emperor of mankind achieves the ultimate triumph. A galaxy reshaped, a civilization unified, and a future guaranteed, not by chance, not by faith, but the unyielding, terrifying brilliance of his mind.